to talk more about the flu and what you can do to reduce the risk of severe illness, including for those aged 65 and older. We turn to our medical expert, Dr. Marla Shapiro. Dr. Marla, thanks for being with us. Let's get into this. A typical flu year. We're talking about this and getting a flu shot. I know we'll get to that. But what does a typical flu season look like in Canada?
So typically we see the takeoff happening around now. The numbers are a little higher than we expect. The takeoff is a little bit earlier, and we haven't hit the peak of flu season December, January. So when we see these type of numbers that are already happening in November, we know that we're going to be in for a rough flu season. When we look to Australia to see what they were like, they had a rough flu season. So typically we see about 3,500 deaths. People underestimate that. 15,000 hospitalizations annually. And those numbers are really quite spectacular when you think about little kids and you think about people over the age of 65 who have immune compromise.
Right, and are the most vulnerable, right, when we get into this time of year. Now, there are different, you mentioned Australia too, and we always try to predict what's going to happen with the flu season at this time of year, but there are different strains and different types of the flu, right?
Right, so the flu shot typically has 3 different strains in it. 2 are influenza A, which usually happens earlier in the flu season, and 1 is influenza B. This year, one of the influenza A that is in the vaccine that you're getting, the H3N2, has mutated from what we have in the vaccine itself. So it's not the best match that we have. But even though it's a mismatch, it still reduces the risk of severe illness. When my patients come in and they say, you gave me the flu shot and I still got the flu, I said, you're here to complain about it, so that's a good thing. So we would like to have 0 cases as the outcome, but really what we're looking is mitigating against severe complications.
Because that's like we talked about earlier too, right?
Yeah.
We talked about severe illness, we talked about the possibility of death. For you too, the flu shot is the biggest thing to prevent the flu. Outside of that, good hygiene, right?
Right, so the biggest thing is the flu shot. And patients who often say to me, I never get the flu, I don't want the flu shot. Think about the fact that when you get the shot, you're not only doing something good for you, you're doing something for the chain of transmission. So if you get the flu and it's mild, but you pass it on to an older individual or a young child, the more people that get vaccinated, the more herd immunity that we have. So vaccine is number 1, hygiene number 2. If you've got the illness, please stay home. You know, presenteeism is not a good thing when you're sick. Absenteeism is actually better.
Which we learned very clearly during the pandemic, right?
Yeah, same type of thing.
Yeah. For those, and we don't want to scare people too much, but for those, if they choose not to get a flu shot, what are the risks as we get into that severe illness category? So
when you get into the severe illness category, that's exactly it. You can get complications. One of the most common complications is a secondary bacterial infection, so you get a bacterial pneumonia. You can have respiratory complications like respiratory failure. If you have an underlying chronic condition, the flu can kick that into overdrive, so that condition can get worse. And of course, the mortality that we see every year in Canada. So please get a flu shot.
It's not too late, right? It's never too late.
No, it's never too late. And here's one myth that I really want to bust. You can't get the flu from the flu shot. It's not a live virus vaccine. You're going to get a little bit of a sore arm. A local side effect is the most common thing that we see. But I'm not going to give you the flu when I give you the vaccine. If you haven't gotten it yet, pharmacy, your local healthcare facility, your physician, nurse practitioner, wherever you get vaccines, go get one.
Dr. Marla Shapiro, always a pleasure. Thanks for this.
See you next time.